Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to the Old Dogs REI Network with your host and top dog, Bill Manacero. You must be prepared to ignite.
This episode of the Old Dogs REI Network is brought to you by Mino Studio. Mino Studio is a pre- and post-production facility for all of your audio needs. Mino Studio's founder is an accredited audio engineer with top 40 and indie album credits. With over 30 years of music industry experience, Mino Studio can take your podcast from idea to reality. Contact Mino Studio at minostudio777@gmail.com for more information. That's Mino Studio spelled M-E-N-O, minostudio777@gmail.com.
In a world where jobs are how most people make money, one man, one desire, one challenge dares to break the mold. Welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network, where we don't work for money. Money works for us. Coming soon. Viewer discretion advised.
Welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network, where cash flow is king. Real estate investing, the means, so you can enjoy your retirement dreams. This is the show where we cut right to the chase. No sales pitch, no long monologues, just simple how-to real estate investing advice, so you can earn the passive income you need to enjoy your retirement today. And now, your host and chief old dog, Bill Manacero.
We have with us today Mitch Steven, the author of My Life in 1,000 Houses, Failing Forward to Financial Freedom. This is the first book of a 3-part series that he has available. He is a self-taught real estate entrepreneur, self-employed since 1996. Mitch has purchased well over 1,000 houses in and about his hometown of San Antonio, Texas. A high school graduate, he's never stopped learning, consuming books, CDs, seminars, and webinars at every possible opportunity. Today, he specializes in a unique type of owner financing of properties to individuals left behind by traditional lending institutions, and giving new life to properties that scar the neighborhoods. He has developed a method of achieving cash flow without having to be a landlord and without having to rehab properties. In addition, he has extensive experience in the art of raising private money and the classic nothing down deal, as well as pioneering a method where you don't have to give discounts to sell your notes. Passionate speaker who delivers a message of integrity first and profit second, Mitch likes to keep it simple and explain in plain English the theories that make him financially independent. I like that approach. And I'd like to introduce you to our friend here, Mitch Steven. Welcome, Mitch.
Hey, Bill. Nice to be here, man. I'm excited. I think you got a good thing going here. Old dogs. I love it.
You got it, man. We're definitely old dogs that like to be taught new tricks. So that's why we have you here today.
Did you notice there's a chapter in my book, Old Dogs, New Tricks? Did you notice that?
I did not.
There is. You should read it.
I did read it. But, I took one of these speed reading courses. Sometimes you miss little headings and things, But,
yeah. Evelyn Sped Redding.
Well, Mitch, why don't you just give us a little bit of your background so our listeners can just hear where you came from and how you got into this amazing area.
I think my life parallels a lot of people's life. I don't have a college education. I stopped at high school. Maybe I went to a semester or two and figured out that wasn't for me. I tried a lot of different businesses. A lot of the businesses that I tried, I was very successful at, but I couldn't get people to pay me. I did my job well. I did what I was supposed to do. I fulfilled the contract, but they were services, and I couldn't take my services back. And people would file bankruptcy, like during the '80s debacle or whatever, and then the next recession, and the same thing. I was always owed a ton of money, and everyone would file bankruptcy during the rough times, and then I wouldn't get paid, and I didn't like that aspect very much. Then I stumbled into real estate and found out that I either get paid or I get my property back, and I thought that was very unique and different. I had a way to be made whole if I stayed within a certain parameters. I started out wanting to be a landlord. I had 25 houses. I was supposed to make $300 per house spread between what I owed and what I collected on average. So I was supposed to make about $7,500 a month. That didn't work out. I was about to, throw that business card away too and mark it up as another failed business. And then I made a crucial mistake in my favor. I paid a man $10,000 to help me get out of the landlording business and get rid of my properties if he would help me maintain my credit and my good standing and my word. And I took and it's always a lot of money, Bill, when it's the last money you have. It was the last $10,000 I had.
Yeah, that must have hurt.
And what inadvertently happened was he taught me how to stay in the business. And that was 20 years ago, multi-millions of dollars ago, over 1,400 transactions ago. Who's counting? I started to morph my business. What this mentor taught me was, he says, quit being a landlord, because all of the liabilities are on your side. If anything breaks, if anything goes wrong, it comes out of your pocket. He says, collect a down payment from each of the 25 houses, and then make a payment that's really close to their rental payment right now, plus or minus a couple of bucks. And I said, okay. So I got in the amortization deals. I figured it all out. I ended up taking an average of $3,000 down per house times 25 houses. Bill, how much is that? 3,000 times 25 houses, $75,000 in my pocket. Not a deposit. Not a refundable deposit, my money down payment. And then I was collecting the same $7,500 a month, but now I was the bank. And if the air conditioner broke, it wasn't my bank, because I had owner financed this to the guy who was living inside the house. He was making a payment to me, and it was his house. He was the courthouse. He was the owner of record down at the courthouse. And so if the air conditioner broke, it was his problem, not my problem. So when the $7,500 came in every month, guess how much I got to keep? $7,500.
I love it.
So that was one of the greatest investments I ever made. I paid a man $10,000 to teach me how to make millions, And so all of a sudden, $7,500 a month is coming in, and there's no phone calls. I don't hear about a toilet. I don't hear about a broken door, a hinge, a hot water heater, nothing. And I thought, wow. And then the note buyers called me, and they wanted to pay me an amount that by the time I paid back what I owed, I would net about really it was about $1,700 per house. So if you take 25 houses times, 17,000 a house I'd net if they sold the notes. So if you take 25 houses and you average 17,000 a house, I picked up another $425,000. So what happened was, the note buyer says, you have this note, I want to buy it from you. We haggled a little bit, whatever. Actually, I didn't haggle at all, which was in my youth, And he did the one deal, and I netted $17,000. I said, what can you do with 24 more if we'll do them exactly the same? Because they were exactly the same houses. They were exactly the same neighborhoods. It was exactly the same numbers almost. And they said, okay, and they did 24. So I went from being a very disgruntled, dead broke landlord who gave up his last $10,000 to get out of a business, and kind of like Oprah Winfrey says, right before the gut-wrenching end of the struggle came the light, and there it was. And all of a sudden I had $500,000 in a bank account, and then I learned the 3 letters IRS and showed how they can cut yourself dang near in half. But anyways, I went from being broke to having $500,000, having to pay taxes on $500,000, and then I started to ask myself, how can I shortcut this? How can I shortcut this process? Can I buy a house, not have to rent it? Can I go straight to owner financing? Could I sell the note right away? Now these days, I don't have to sell a note, and I didn't have to sell notes then, and I wish I wouldn't have. I'd have been further along even today than I am. But it's part of the learning process. Part of why mentors are great. Because when you're making $7,500 a month, or $15,000 a month, or $30,000 a month, or $50,000 a month, or $75,000 a month, or $90,000 a month, why in the world would you ever need to sell your note?
Exactly. Now, do you still get the tax benefits?
Well, I just pay on the income as it comes in. I pay on the installment method, or accrual. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's arguments pro and against that, but talk to your CPA. I'm not a CPA, but there are legitimate ways and reasons, and
Sure.
for doing what you do. So as I started to get a reputation in my town for doing a lot of houses, I did all these houses mostly in my hometown. So I've done probably getting close to 1,500 houses in my hometown these days. That book, My Life in 1,000 Houses, released in 2008. I did about 100 houses last year in 2015, and one of the toughest markets I've ever seen to buy a distressed house. I still managed to buy just under 100 houses in 2015. I, take off my humble hat for 5 seconds, say I am a consummate pro at what I do. I'm a pro. But, to become a professional at something, you really just have to do it over and over again for a matter of years or even months, and you become a professional. I one time heard a man say, and I think I have this correct, that if you took a subject, any subject, and let's just take the subject of the Civil War. If you took the subject of the Civil War and you took all the books about the Civil War and you threw them in your backyard in a big heaping pile, and then every morning you dove off your roof into the pile, you grabbed any book, you opened it to any page, and you read for 30 minutes, at the end of the year, you would be classified as a world's authority on the Civil War if you had any retention whatsoever. And so I took that method and said, well, I'm going to become an expert at this, and I've never stopped for 20 years. I am always talking or listening or studying real estate. But as my reputation grew, people started asking me, will you teach me how to do this? And I said no for years. And then I finally sat down with someone, and they explained to me how I could say yes and not feel 100% responsible, because I feel very responsible if I take someone on that they be successful, that they not waste their money. And I didn't know how to guarantee that. And the fact is, I can't guarantee it, but I found ways to live with the odds. You know what I mean?
Right. Wow, that's an amazing story. And to this day, you're still buying houses as well as mentoring folks as well.
Yeah, but the mentoring's, you're not going to see me scale this. I'm not going to scale this to 500 students. I can only take about 12, 15 high-level students at a time. I can take all kinds of people on the weekly Q&A. I can take, 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 people on the Q&A because it's group coaching. But when I got to take individuals, I'm limited. Maybe I can take about 12 at a time. Maybe over the year I could take a total of 50. But the reason is because when they call, I'm the one that answers the phone. Not some student that bought 15 houses last year that I assigned you to. No, I'm answering the phone. You got 20 years and 1,000 some odd houses experience. I've been kicked up and down the block so many times you wouldn't even imagine. You wouldn't have recognized me some months. I'd be black and blue. But I don't repeat my mistakes over and over. I try to make those mistakes once and then find a way to dust myself off and go, well, that didn't work. How do I set things up so this can't happen again? And one little thing at a time, you start to get pretty solid.
Wow, that's great. Now, when you first started off, how many homes was it that you talked about where you went to them for the first time and asked them basically if they wanted to buy the house? Was that what you had done?
Well, yeah, I would just drive up and down the street and look for vacant houses. I wasn't using very sophisticated methods back in 1996, 1997. The internet's not what it is today. There was still information there, but there was very few databases, and most of the courthouses weren't even on the internet yet or on computer yet. They were still on microfiche, if you remember that word.
Right.
And so I was just doing it the old-fashioned way, man. I was just putting on my shoes and getting down the street and talking to people, man, shaking hands, and you'd be surprised. The thing that you'll find out is everybody lives in a house, and everybody knows people that live in houses. And so even if they don't have the house for sale, they know someone who has a house that they need to get rid of. I mean, there's just seems like there's this connection, like 6 degrees of separation or something, and you just got to get in there and shake it up. Plus, back in that time, there wasn't a bunch of people going around teaching this stuff in every city to thousands and thousands of people. So there was a time when all I had to do really was I promise you this, all I had to do in 1996, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2001 was get in the classifieds. If I could buy a house a day in the classifieds, and I did, I would go out and about 5 days a week. I'd buy a house every day, and then sometimes I'd screw up and I'd buy 2 houses in one day, But that was the old days, and that's not how it is now. There's some competition out there, and you got to get smarter.
Right. Now, when you were landlord and you converted over to banker, so to speak, I'm making it real simple here, but were all of your tenants receptive when you went to them and said, look, you want to buy this house? And you're trying to, make that change from landlord?
Well, I really wanted $5,000 down because because these people don't have good credit. So the glue that makes the deal stick, that makes everything work, is the down payment is the credit. And the more they give you, the more committed they are not to walk away or not to tear the house up, or the more committed they are, and the more cushioned you are in case they do walk away. You've got X amount of their money to go straighten things out with. The thing about being a landlord is if you take $1,000 first month rent and $1,000 deposit, I mean, you really only people think they have $2,000. No, the one of those $1,000 was the first month's rent. Okay, so unless you just want to have an 11th month year, then you can't count that $1,000. You have $1,000 to fix a house when someone leaves. $1,000 doesn't shampoo the carpet and call the cleaning lady to dust things off. They won't even buy anything. Right. But I can get in a down payment, so I can get 5, 10, 15, 20, 30,000 down. I picked up 2 $30,000 payments on houses that were $100,000 or less. Last week, I got 30,000 down, not because I was demanding it. I just, I make the pot a little sweeter for people who give me a little more. And there's an incentive there, a real incentive. But I always ask for 10% down, So if it's a $100,000 house, I want a minimum of 10,000 down. And 10,000 down is not chump change to middle and lower America. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to me right now.
And what if they can't come up with the 10,000? The deal doesn't go through, or do you negotiate?
No, they have to become a renter till they get 10,000. That's the problem that they have to solve. I'm solving a lot of other problems for them. I'm finding a house they like that they can afford and putting the terms and stretching it out over the years. I'm doing a lot. The least you can do is come up with the money to make me comfortable. I'm doing a lot of things to make you comfortable.
Right.
I'm trying. You got to do your part, and the main thing I want you to do is come up with some money, because I'm looking at your credit, man, and it ain't that good.
Right.
There's no reason I should believe you're going to pay me, but you give me 10% down or 15% down or 20% down. As a matter of fact, at 10% down, I have a 5% I have a 10% fallout rate. At 15% down, I have a 5% fallout, and at 20% down, it's almost nothing. I wanted to go there with those guys and get 5,000 down from all my tenants, but they didn't have the money, so I ended up negotiating with some of them down to 3,000, because I was really a don't wanter at the time, and I was really uneducated, and I was smart enough to do the math. If they all just gave me just 3,000, I'd have $75,000 in the bank. Well, half of them could come up with 3,000, the other half couldn't, so I ended up having to give everyone that half their notice. And so it took me 6 months to get it all turned around, because I was having people move out and I had to clean up I used to clean up the houses. Now I learned that I don't even need to clean up the houses, because I'd have been much smarter to take $3,000 from someone and they clean up the house, not me clean up the house and take the $3,000.
Right.
So
looking at the process that you go through, you locate a home, and then you advertise that home as sort of a rent-to-own type?
No. I don't even want the word rental associated with me and my company in my life.
Okay,
except for the mini storage and boat storage business, where I'll rent all day long, but that's another story. We'll talk about that in a minute. But
sure.
So here, let me give you an exact model. I buy a house with OPM, other people's money. And let's say I'm going to buy a house for $30,000. I'm all in. I can get this house for $30,000. Now, remember, I'm in San Antonio, Texas. The price is a little different, but don't get hung up on the numbers. I will say this: owner financing models work best in lesser expensive houses and/or / mobile homes or mobile homes with land.
Okay.
So I'm just using this because I know these numbers well. $30,000, and I pay 8% interest 8% interest only for 5 years, and so I'm paying, and I pay monthly, so I'm paying $200 a month for this money, right? But I borrow $32,000. I always pay myself when I buy. I pay myself at least $2,000. It's hardly over leveraging, and you'll see this in the example as we go through. But so I borrow $32,000 at 8% interest only for 5 years. And so my payment is $2,013. Let's call it $2,015 is my payment. So I got this expense of $2,015. And then, and this is the greatest strategy in the world, Bill. Got your pencil? Because I'm fixing to tell you the greatest strategy on the whole planet as far as little old Mitch Steven is concerned.
I'm right.
It's buy it, dash, do not fix it, dash, double whatever you have in it, dash, owner finance it for that amount, dash, plus a down payment. Buy it, don't fix it, owner finance it. Watch the owner occupant go over budget fixing up your collateral. It's the greatest plan. It's the greatest plan in the world. Buy it, don't fix it. Watch the guy that moves in and is making payments on that hunk of junk. Watch him go over budget fixing up your collateral.
Wow.
Because everyone goes over budget on the rehab. Me, you, everybody. I don't care who you are. Raise your hand if you have not gone over budget. There should be none of you raising your hand because you all go over budget. You know it. And if you tell me that you do it and you don't go over budget, then either you're setting your budget so high that you're not smart or you're lying to me. But anyways, so okay, let's continue on with the model. So I bought this house. I have it under contract for $30,000. I borrowed $32,000. Do you see where I put $2,000 in my left-hand pocket bill that's tax deferred because it's borrowed money, and I don't have to pay tax on that $2,000 until a major event happens, like I get paid off or someone wins the lottery and pays me off?
Right.
Or I sell the note or something. Okay, so here I am at $32,000 and I owe $215 a month, 8% interest only for 5 years. Now, I know by the rents, and I'm backing into the rents to arrive at this number, and we can talk about that formula in a minute, how I arrive at the owner finance value. But I already knew the owner finance value of this house was $65,000 based on the rents. And so now I'm going to put it up for $65,000 with $5,000 down, and more or less, and I'm going to create a note for $60,000 at 10.5% for 20 years. And I know, so $65,000 minus $5,000 leaves a $60,000 balance. And if I use the terms 10.5% in 20 years, I know that his payment is $600 per month, give or take a couple of dollars. So now I'm collecting $600 a month principal and interest and the $5,000 down payment, and my spread between what I'm collecting in principal interest, the $600, and what I owe, the $215, is $385. Do you see, Bill, where I got paid $7,000 to create a positive cash flow for 20 years of $385, of which I am not a landlord. I have no responsibility for anything there. And do you see how a man might get wealthy doing this thousands of times?
Wow. Wow.
How much money do I have out of my pocket, Bill?
Nothing.
Nothing. Not only do I not have any money out of my pocket, I picked up $2,000 when I bought it, and I picked up $5,000 in the down payment. I made $7,000 to produce a $385 per month cash flow for 20 years. Now let's just look at that. $385 times 240 months equals, let me see that again. 385 times 240 months equals, that's $92,700. I got paid $7,000 to create a future $92,400 that's coming to me.
Wow.
If I do that 10 times, I'm a millionaire on paper.
It's impressive.
10 times. And think of all the good stuff I just did. Not to blow my own horn, but in order to buy that house, I probably had to make up back taxes and some stuff not paid to the city. So the city got their money to proliferate the school districts and the fire departments or whatever they spend that money on. Okay? Then I took a $30,000 house, and the assessment was probably the tax assessment was probably somewhere around 20 or 25, and I made it worth. Eventually, I enabled someone to fix it up and make it worth $65,000, or if not $80,000, because this guy might have fixed this house up and made it worth $80,000 or $90,000. Now it's on the tax rolls for the county at $80,000 or $90,000 because I provided the financing for a guy to go in to give him the nerve to put his talents and his his sweat equity into this house to make that house worth $80,000, let's say. Now this house is tax assessed at $80,000, and it's probably not going to go backwards for years and years and years, if not decades. It'll probably go up from there now that I've got it back on it, the house back on its feet. And I took a renter that was never going to get a mortgage loan from a traditional company, and I made him a homeowner. And when you make people homeowners in neighborhoods, you make the neighborhood a better place, because homeowners are better for neighborhoods than tenants. They always will be. It'll never change. The mindset is different of an owner than a tenant. And so you're taking these crack houses, you're changing the feel of these neighborhoods, you're making renters owners, you're getting taxes where they belong, and increased property taxes so that the schools and the fire departments and whatever entities can function. And I could go on and on and on. Contractors and sales tax that happens at the stores, and how every time a dollar moves, the tax is paid, whether it's a payroll tax or a tax to buy a product or a property tax. Every time a dollar moves, there's tax. So I'm causing taxation that's good for everything. And there's just so many wins to this bill, it's not even funny.
That's unbelievable. It sounds like it's also a good solution for people that have a home they feel like they're stuck with, and I didn't mention that. There's people out there, believe it or not. I mean, they don't know what to do with this home. They live out of state. There's back taxes. The entities are calling them. They're getting lawsuits from the county's attorneys. And they're petrified. They're sick to their stomach. There's 1,000 reasons why people sell. I mean, the last one I bought, the guy's going to go to prison if he doesn't come up with 20 grand in back child support in 7 days. Okay, I'll get you 20 grand. What do you got? Well, grandma gave me a house down on Guadalupe Street that's leaning a little bit to the left, but I'll give you that house if you can keep me out of jail. Great. I buy the house for $20,000 on Guadalupe Street. I owner finance it for $47,000 with $7,000 down, and we're back to the races. Now I only need 8 more. To be a millionaire. Wow.
So,
yeah.
Now, it's interesting, though, because the core belief of this business, and I just put out my third book, and you wanted to talk about the first book, which is fine, which is kind of autobiographical, which is about how a dummy figured out how he was where he belonged in life, which is me, figured out finally where I belong, what I'm supposed to do after. I didn't start till I was 36. I lived pretty much paycheck to paycheck till I was 36, found this business, fell in love with this business, found my passion. And between 36 and 55, I've done everything that if they have any accolades, it's been done probably between 36 and 55. And so I just put out a book called My Life in 1,000 Houses, The Art of Owner Financing. And you can find all this stuff. Just go through 1000houses.com/old dog so we can get Bill here some good credit and all the good things he's done in his life. Make sure that he can have a retirement too. But go there. I got lots of free stuff. But in that book, I talk about the art of owner financing, and the core belief of that of owner financing, Bill, is you have to believe. And this is the core belief. And if you don't believe it, then don't go buy this book because you'll hate it. The core belief is that a person paying $1,000 a month for rent would rather pay $1,000 to own. Do you believe that?
Yeah, definitely.
You have to hold on to that core belief all the way through because it'll come up time and time again. And you can't halfway believe it because I can sell over the market by 10 or 15%. A lot of times the rents are so high that you could actually buy a house and own it for cheaper than rent. Have you ever been in those situations? Maybe California has that kind of situation sometimes.
Oh, California is an entity unto itself.
Yeah. Okay, but so hear me out. So what we do is we get on Zillow or Trulia or rentometer.com, and I can pull up in front of a house, and within about 7 to 10 minutes, I can get on the internet, I can punch in the address at Zillow, Trulia, or Rentometer, or all three, and I can find out what the average rents are in that zip code for a 3-2-bedroom house. In 10 minutes. Don't have to be a member of MLS, nothing. So now I know what the rents are. Then I get on the tax assessment website, and I find out what the monthly taxes are, and I subtract the property tax bill, the monthly property tax bill. So let's say the rent is $750, and I find out that the property taxes are exactly $100 a month, and then I already know from experience that the insurance is going to run about $50 a month. So you take $750 and you minus $150 for taxes and insurance, and that leaves $600. that this person, these renters would have for principal and interest payment, if by the time if they bought a house, by the time they paid the taxes and insurance, they're going to be right back to where they were in rent, give or take a couple dollars, $750. So if they have $600, Bill, left over for principal and interest, if I use the terms 10.5% in 20 years, I know that they can afford to finance $60,000. This is tying right back into the first example I'm using. Okay, I know they can afford to finance $60,000. So if they can afford to finance $60,000, then what is the owner financed sales price? Let's just add 10% on top. So the owner financed sales price is $66,000. And that's how I establish my value. Now I probably bump this because I don't need an appraisal to owner finance a house to you, Bill. If you and I decide we want to make a deal and you want to give me a down payment for my house and we agree on the down payment and we agree on the payment, there's no appraisal necessary. I'm not government backed. I'm not FDIC insured. I'm not anything. I'm Mitch Steven backed. So I don't have no one's underwriting me. So there is no appraisal. Okay, so I can charge whatever price you and me agree. I would probably start this house out at 69. But let's just stay with the example. I want to finance it for 65, 66. And so I take a down payment. Who knows exactly what I'm going to get in a down payment? Maybe I get $10,000 or $12,000 for a down payment. I don't know. But I'm just saying I need to get at least $5,000 or $6,000 down to feel comfortable. And I'm going to carry the $60,000 balance. And I'm going to move this renter from $750 a month rent to $750 a month owner, give or take a few bucks. Will renters pay $100 more a month to be an owner? Yes, they will. Yes, they will. But being conservative. So the core belief is that a renter paying X would rather be an owner paying X per month. And so in order to be able to know what to offer on houses, you have to know what you're going to sell them for. So this is the formula I go through first. I figure out what I can owner finance the house for. And then I want to be in the house someplace less than that I feel is comfortable and that I can make a profit. And so I think if I can sell a house for 65 and I can be in for 50% of 65, I think that's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so take a look at the dynamic also. Let's say I borrow $1 million to buy houses over the next year from other people. Well, I'm making 2.5% on my borrowed money. It's like having a CD for $1 million that you're making 2.5%. And then I make 10.5% on the spread between what I owe my private lenders and what the guy in the house owes me. This is why this is a wonderful, wonderful business, because there's just a lot of dynamics to this business.
What about the guys that are in states like California? Okay, they're not going to find the $30,000 house. Can they do this model as an out-of-state investor?
Well, first of all, I think you might be able to do it in California in houses like 350, 450, 500, 600,000 if you demand that you get, let's say, a $600,000 house. If you demand a $300,000 down payment and you get it, the plan will probably work because you can go to the bank and borrow the other $3,000 at 4 or 5%. You see what I'm saying? If you're dealing in that kind of price range of house, you're going to have to be a more sophisticated person, and you're going to have to deal in big down payments. But here's the thing: $300,000 is not that much money in California.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if a Californian took me up on this and we went to go do this, and they would need the ability to borrow from banks or mortgage companies at reduced interest rates. Okay, so that would be a requirement, and they'd have to, they'd have to be a man of means, because I don't want to try this with someone who's just trying to get started, okay, because that wouldn't work. But I think that if you could buy a house, let's just do it like this. You could buy a house for $300,000 or $400,000, and you could owner finance it for $600,000. That's not too unreasonable. You could find a house for $400,000 and owner finance it for $600,000, and then you demand $300,000 down or new loan, and someone comes with $300,000. You could put $200,000 of the $300,000 cash down payment towards your debt. You bought it for $400,000. You put $2,000 of the $300,000 towards your debt. Now you're only owed $200,000, and the house is worth $600,000. You put $200,000. You put $100,000 in your pocket. You'd reduce your debt down to $200,000, and the house would be worth $600,000. I think that this would all work out, because I think the bank's going to loan you the $200,000 because the house is worth so much money. I don't want to get too complicated into the minutia here, but I'm just saying I think it might work. And if anyone wants to go down that road with me, I'd love to do a case study in California and prove that it works, because I think it would. Because I think there are people in California that will stroke a check for their daughter's first house for $300,000 like nobody's business.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah. Well, let's put the word out here, so maybe somebody will take you up on that.
Yeah, I just would like someone who knows what they're, a little more sophisticated person. We'll go out there and we'll try some theories out there, because I'm pretty sure they'll work. But I need someone to prove it. Now, I've proven it over and over and over again in houses worth $150,000 or less. I've proven it over and over and over again all my career. So I'm not worried about whether the theory works in the lower echelon houses. So don't get me confused there. But so I would love to tell you one thing that sparked me, though, that I think that all my students come to me wanting basically the same thing. They want their freedom. The ones I'm talking to don't want it for the car and the boat. They want money because they want their freedom. And I heard a personal definition of financial freedom one time that really changed me forever. And it didn't change me overnight. It took me about 4 or 5 days, because I kept running this definition through the mill. I kept running it through the mill, and it kept coming out a different size in a different shape. And what the definition was: financial freedom happens when your wants and your needs are exceeded by your passive income. And all of a sudden, that saying, Bill, the teacher will appear when the student is ready. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I was ready at this point to hear this definition, because all of a sudden I was having all these revelations. The number one revelation was, wow, I thought financial freedom was words that rich people used, and all I really need is about $4,500 a month to become financially free, and that is not rich. I could become financially free if I had $4,500 a month coming to my mailbox. And all of a sudden, financial freedom became a word that I could attain. And I never, financial freedom used to just go right past my face, and I did, well, I'm not rich, I can't talk about that. I'm not rich enough to talk about financial freedom. But you didn't have to be rich to be financially free. You just had to have more coming in than you had going out at any level. So that was the first revelation. The second revelation was that I controlled the bar. And that if I could reduce my overhead from $4,500 down to $3,500, that I could probably, my chances of getting financially free would go up. And so I reduced my overhead, things that I could scuttle, from $4,500 down to $3,500. And then I had this other revelation, or this thing come over me. All of a sudden, it wasn't about making $1 million anymore. The first step was just to get $3,500 a month to come in. Is that too much to ask out of the United States, out of one of the greatest capitalistic countries in the world, that little old Mitch Steven at least be able to get $3,500 a month coming in? Is that too much to ask? Heck no, it wasn't. And all of a sudden, having to make $1 million and everything just went away. And I had this little bitty tiny prospect of this thing that I had to do. And I did it in less than a year. I think I actually did it in 6 months. But even if it would take me a year, it's worth it. Because of the biggest revelation. The biggest revelation was, if being wealthy is in the cards for Mitch Steven, it'll happen after I get financially free. I figure that's when it'll happen. If it's ever going to happen, I'll have to get financially free first for it to happen. Because this magical thing happens when you become financially free, Bill. You stop giving 2,600 hours a year to someone else, and you start giving it to yourself. And you can give it to yourself whether you get paid or not, because you got your financial freedom, I call it your freedom number, is already coming in the mailbox number. That $3,500 is coming in the mail. It's not a goal. It's not your life's aspirations. It's just saying you don't have to go work for somebody anymore. Your car is paid for. Your car insurance is paid for. Your house is paid for. Your clothes, your air conditioning bill, your utilities, whatever, it's paid for in $3,500 a month. And this was 20 years ago. Okay, so if the number seems a little low, it is low, but it was a 20 year ago number. And I was a kid, and I wasn't married, and I didn't have kids, to make that clear. So in 2,600 hours a year, that's 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. And the reason why I picked 10 is because those of us that like to work, and most of us that will take on a prospect like this, are workers. And we don't just do the minimum 8 hours, no matter we have an 8 hour a day job or not. We don't work 8 hours. We're doers. We work 10 hours because we take pride, and we have integrity, and we care, and we're responsible, and we always spend more hours than they pay us for. So I picked 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, 2,600 hours, that I could do anything I want to. And if I want to go hang around with Donald Trump and go and tell him, I'll work for you for free for a year, I can. And I can go be around people who are where I want to be and learn from them. And that's what I did. And exactly what I suspected would happen, might happen, happened. I became a very successful, happy, balanced person because I didn't have to sacrifice 2,600 hours a year to someone who was giving me just enough to get by.
Right. That's a great story, and that's the story that I read in that first book, which I think is really an excellent way just to get introduced to what you do, and you've grown it quite a bit since then, and it's exciting to hear, and it's also encouraging, I think, for a lot of people that know that if they can have a target that's obtainable, that it's so much easier to go beyond that and really know financial freedom. So, boy, I didn't realize that. I mean, the time is just zipping by here. We could probably talk for another hour, but
I'm up for you. You want to talk and cut it into 2 segments or whatever you want to do, but I've been kind of hogging the airwaves here. So I know you had some specific questions you wanted to ask, and I think I'm taking up the time. So whatever you want to do, I'm here.
No, it's great. And a couple of things just to sort of before we wrap up. One, I wanted to just ask you regarding your current business. What is something that's really exciting you about it today, and sort of your vision for the future?
About my current business?
Yes.
Well, I have a lot of businesses right now. I got so good at raising private money that I have a hard money business that I loan to my competitors when they find deals before me. I built my wealth by buying Walmart houses in Walmart neighborhoods, and then I built my wealth and I bought boat storages and self-storages, mini storages to preserve my wealth because rent is forever. These notes that I create, they have a time limit on them. They're going to expire. So I had to convert into some kind of rental unit. But the only thing I ever want to be a landlord for is 10 by 10 squares that don't have any sheetrock or anything. They're just storage units. And I specifically prefer boat storage units on dry land. And then I have this educational business where I help people. So what I think, if I look at it all from 10,000 feet, I think it's less about making money now than it was a long time ago, because it was all about the money then, and now it's more about seeing if I can help some other people realize the destination they have in mind for themselves, And unfortunately, we buy our freedom with money, but the money doesn't have to own us. And I'm kind of to a point where I don't have to do this for the money anymore, so I'm doing it more for seeing how many people I can get to the finish line,
I love it. Well, I'll tell you, it's something that I think a lot of our listeners probably have heard for the first time, a very unique approach to real estate investing, which is not your typical buy and hold scenario or a fix and flip, but it is very creative, and hopefully it's something that people can grasp onto. We have the little session now that we do, we call it our wrap-up, and I ask you a series of real quick questions just to get a feel for your ideas. You're a guy that loves to read and research, so I'm going to ask you just a series of quick questions here, and you can just respond hopefully as quick as you can, and we'll move to our conclusion here. First question, what's your favorite real estate book? Not your own, outside of your own. We're definitely promoting those, but what real estate book really had an impact on you?
The one that launched me was Nothing Down by Robert Allen, because he had the audacity to suggest that I could become successful at real estate even if I didn't have any money.
Great book. Favorite business book?
I don't know if it qualifies as a business book or not, but one of the books that really shaped my thinking was Self-Made in America by John McCormick, who posed the question, how can immigrants come here with nothing and not even know how to speak the language and know nothing about the culture and become financially independent within 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years? And we in America live at the intersection of opportunity and prosperity and can't ever figure it out till the day we die.
Great book. I haven't read that one, but you got me going on that one. That's great. How about most valuable website for success that you access?
I think I'm going to say, and it might surprise you, but it's called audible.com.
Oh, because yes, I know about Audible. Sure.
Because at audible.com allows me to download audiobooks and I get to take. I'm a big fan of double dipping, and I live 40 minutes from my town. That means an hour and a half both ways if there's no traffic. And so there's an hour and a half every day that I get to take in someone else's knowledge, and I get to learn and keep moving forward in a time when I have to be driving anyways. And so I think that's the most valuable website to me, because I have listened to countless hours and hours upon hours of very smart people telling me about things they know about.
That's one of my favorites too. I actually look forward to traffic in LA,
right?
Because I've got a stack of books in my Audible account that I am looking forward to devouring in heavy traffic. I'm one of the few guys smiling in the heavy traffic there. How about favorite app? It could also be the same thing, I know, because that's where I have it on my phone, Audible. But do you have another app on your phone that is sort of invaluable for you in your business life?
Well, the one I use the most is Loan Shark, and I click on the credit card calculator, which only has 4 variables, interest rate, term, payment, and balance, and I'm able to solve for the open one. So that's the one I use the most. But the one I find the most interesting is the service bell. Service bell. You know that little bell that sits on the counter that you ding? Well, you can put one on your phone, and it works everywhere you go. I mean, when you want service, you just get it on your app, and you click it, and everyone turns around and says, "Can I help you?" So I just love it. I love service bell.
I love that. I've never heard of that one before, but I'm getting it.
I was at the dog store one day, and they didn't have a bell. And I was up there at the register, and no one was there. No one was at the front. So I got out my phone and my app, and I hit service bell, and I turned up the volume, and I hit the bell, and it goes ding, and the lady from the back goes, "I'll be there in a second." And she runs up there, and she goes, and then she's looking around with a strange look on her face, and she's like looking all over. And I said, "What's the matter?" She says, "I'm trying to find out where that service bell is because we need one, and I've never seen it." And I said, "Well, it's right here on my phone."
I love it. Oh, great. And our final question here. Knowing what you've known, okay, let's say something catastrophic happened and you just, lost everything. You lost everything but $1,000 that you had in the bank. What would you do with that $1,000 to start all over again?
I'd put out $110 earnest money contracts on houses.
Interesting. Can you elaborate on that?
I didn't have any money, and everyone, when I started out, and everyone was telling me that I had to have money. I mean, I had to put down, the realtors would tell you that you had to put down $500 or $1,000 earnest money. And then one day, a guy said, "Who says? The realtor works for you. You put up $10. You tell them to present the contract. And if, someone doesn't like it, then you'll give the $10 earnest money contract to someone else." And so I bought my first 500 deals with $10 earnest money. It just became a habit.
Really? Wow. I love it.
Yes, and then there was arguments. He says, if anyone says, "Why are you only putting up $10? Say, "Well, I'm not even sure you're really the owner, with all due respect. I don't know if any heirs. I don't know." So when the title company comes back and tells me that you're the actual owner and you have the right to sell this house, then call me and we'll put some more money up. And then only one person has ever called me. And they said, "Okay, we're at the title company, and you got a title commitment. You need to put some more money up." And I says, "Why don't I just bring it all down there? What you want to meet tomorrow?" I never did put any more money up. I just went and bought the house.
That's great. I love it. Great idea.
Why don't I just bring all the money down there? How about Friday? Friday sound good? I'll bring all the money.
That's great. That's great. Well, we're at the end of our podcast here, so I wanted to see if there was anything else you wanted to add, Mitch, that would be of value to our listeners.
No, just go to 1000houses.com. That's 1000houses.com/old dogs in honor of our friend here, Bill Manacero. And that's Old Dogs, DAWGS, kind of the southern spelling. Old Dogs. And, see if you can't learn a new trick or two. I will tell you this. It's going to take you over to my website, and I give away a lot of free stuff. Like I said, I give away a lot of free stuff. Check out my blog if you want to. There's enough information there to launch a career. If you read through my blog, I'm very detailed as to why I do what I do and when and where and all that. So I just appreciate being on, Bill. I appreciate the time. I hope I didn't hog the airwaves here.
No, Mitch, it was great. You gave a lot of great information that I'm sure people are going to just really love to listen to and re-listen to. But, we mentioned old dogs. We haven't finished yet. We have a tradition with all of our guests that as we close out the show that our guests will give us their best shot. Now, I know Texas has got some hound dogs out there, so I know you know what these dogs sound like. So,
this is the part, huh?
This is it. This is where you've got to give your best old hound dog howl here.
Okay, I'm going to try this. I didn't practice. I should have practiced. Dang.
Oh, it's better when you don't practice.
All right.
Oh wow, that was great, Mitch. That was definitely one of our top howls. I think we'll let the audience.
Does he give a prize for top howler, man?
Well, you get in the semis, and then later we'll let you know if you actually made it to the finals or not. But you'll have to come back for that, and it'll be live on some stage somewhere. And you'll have to dress up as a dog. So it's
as a dog. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Mitch. This has been a blast, and again, I think it's a ton of excellent information that I'm sure our audience is really going to appreciate.
And thank you for making me howl, because that just kind of makes you feel young.
I love it. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. We are just thrilled that you took the time to listen to today's show. And at our website, we'll have the show notes there with all of the things that Mitch mentioned, as well as links to some of those areas, and his website, of course, as well. What's the best way for folks to get a hold of you, Mitch?
I'm not too hard to find, man. You just got to get the spelling of my last name correct. It's Stephen. It's like a first name. There's no V in the middle. There's no S on the end. It's been a lifelong hazard, but don't worry. 1000houses.com is 100houses.com. You can find all kinds of stuff there and contact us and all that. So it's all there.
Great. Well, thanks again, Mitch. And again, thanks all for listening. Just keep moving forward, everybody, and God bless.
Thank you very much for visiting the Old Dogs REI Network. We would greatly appreciate if you would stop by iTunes and let us know what you think of the show. We would love if you could subscribe to the podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and write a review. The more ratings and reviews we receive, the more visible the podcast will be to others. Thank you.